Thank you, Antonio. Welcome. Thanks for joining us on today's videocast. We're doing a series of videocasts on our recent OneOffice Awards, which Takeda was the winner of our People in Process Change Award. So congratulations, Antonio, first of all. And thanks for being with us today. Can you give us an introduction to yourself, please?
Yeah, of course. First of all, thank you very much for the award, and very glad and humbled to be here representing the team, the TBS team, the Takeda team, and my HR team as well. So very quickly on me, just a few words. I'm leading the HR team for GREFP and TBS within corporate function in Takeda. I'm based in Zurich, and I'm originally Italian.
Super. Thanks, Antonio. So just give us a little rundown of what the award case study was all about.
Yeah, the case study was about our journey as TBS in the last 3 years when we reshaped the function almost from the beginning. We moved from Takeda Business Services into Takeda Business Solution, which was not only a change in the name, but it was a change in the culture. It was supposed to be a change in the culture. And that was soon after the acquisition of Shire from Takeda, so an expansion in the scale of the overall organization. Just for everyone to be clear, Takeda Business Solution is our global business solution part of the organization, delivering in different areas such as HR, such as procurement, such as finance, and taking processes from the rest of the organization in order to streamline and to deliver ultimately an exceptional people experience to the organization. So our submission was about the people journey that is related to that organizational journey. So how we rebuilt the organization 3 years ago, we refocused, we restarted from our line of sight with the patient, which is sometimes not obvious when it comes to those functions that deliver internal kind of processes, such as invoice processing, such as payroll, for example. So it's not so obvious, but of course, that's what we do in our organization. We serve our patients, and anytime in any part of the organization we can deliver or improve any process, we are either freeing up and touching our patients. So that's what we do. Then we, of course, focused on how the new organization should have looked like and how we could have attracted the right people. So there was a lot of focus on recruitment on the first stage. Then after that, we moved, of course, into focusing on onboarding. And that's pretty intuitive if you think about it. So if you are recruiting a lot of people to fit this new organization, and we are talking about hundreds, then you better onboard them very well to make sure that everyone, first of all, feels that we are walking the talk. So that was what was told them and what we worked on in terms of employer branding, employer value proposition. It's what they find as soon as they join the organization. And that's the first and most important part. And give you an example here as well. We spoke about the line of sight with the patient. Our new hires, within their first 3 months, they get exposed to a program called Patient Connection. I don't want to tell you too much about this. Probably we will have more time later to speak about it, but it's about connecting our employees with real patients. They have chat box, they can chat with patients, and then we organize a call after 2 weeks of chatting with patients. And normally people think it's like bot generated, it's like not real patients. Then they get connected with real patients. Just to give you a very quick example of what we do, but we focused on the onboarding parts, and now we are focusing more and more into the people development. So we recruit, we make sure that we have the people we need also in terms of next generation challenges. So we did a big work in terms of understanding what are the key capabilities that will make us successful today and tomorrow. We onboarded them well, I have to say. We launched this program called the Best First TBS, but the best first day, first week, first month, first quarter. And then the last step was and still is to make sure that we excel in developing our people. So we launched Takeda Digital Accelerator. We launched several programs. We are democratizing coaching. And I can give you example and stay here for the next 2 days, but I won't. I'll stop here. That's basically what the submission was about. So how this people agenda, this people journey really helped us to shape our organization as it is today and our culture as it is today.
Super. That's great. I was so struck when I first read and talked to you guys about this case study at how much you were really aligning the culture to the patient experience and making people understand what their role played in that. But that's really hard. And just hearing you talk about all the things that you've launched and implemented, I'm remembering and thinking how much work that takes and how difficult it is to actually change and change a culture in particular. So can you share with us perhaps what is the biggest benefit, or even if you want to share what's the biggest surprise or unexpected learning that you had from this whole experience?
Surprise learning, several, of course. It's a long way, even though it was in, let's say, quite an accelerated space, because we did it in 3 years, more or less, 2.5. So it's been quite an accelerated journey, but a lot of surprise, discovery, learnings. Not last to mention, we had a pandemic in the meantime. So we started the journey before, but the pandemic started immediately after. In a way, if I could say a surprise, or no, maybe surprise is not the right word, but what the pandemic taught us quite immediately was that we were going the right direction. Even though there was this pandemic on the way, we actually accelerated our path, our journey, our evolution, because we understood that we were going definitely in the right direction when it comes to making sure people feels the connection to the patients, making sure that we are aligned with our values, with our priorities as an organization, and not just delivering processes. As you can imagine, it's even more important when you have a pandemic hitting the world, right? Because people is dispersed, working from wherever. It's even more needed to feel, right, this sense of belonging, this sense of purpose. If you think about the onboarding I was mentioning before, let's imagine onboarding hundreds of people during a pandemic, right? Maybe people that the day before were working for someone else, the day after they start working for you, and they still see the same wall behind their screen at home, the same maybe kitchen, depending from wherever they are working in their apartment. It doesn't change a lot in a practical terms. So the onboarding becomes even more important to make sure that people does also run the extra mile, because when you are making such a big change in a short period of time, of course, you are asking your organization to run the extra mile. So passion, commitment, sense of purpose, again, it's all critical in the recipe.
That's great. No, thank you for sharing that. And I'm so glad that, there are some silver linings that we can speak of from, the last couple of years of the pandemics, that you're getting closer to your folks and, really getting to understand their needs. What would you?
Sorry, if I can add just a quick
Please
information of this one.
Yeah.
What we noticed during the pandemic, we did several surveys, right? Care survey, employee experience survey, just to even pulse surveys to make sure we were measuring the pulse of the organization. One thing that we were quite amazed to see is that the connectiveness score of our organization improved. So people felt even more connected during the pandemic. Wow. And of course, that was the result of a huge work we did in terms of making sure that the vision, the strategy was fully communicated within the organization, that there were enough opportunities, water cooler, informal coffee chat, even though virtual. So we kind of replaced some of the things we were used to do in a physical environment, in a virtual environment, with the benefit of becoming even closer to people located in several places, right? Because when you do those kind of things physically, you are bounded to your physical location. When you move into the virtual, of course, it requires more effort, because you really need to not force yourself to do, but you really have to put those kind of things in your priority list. But when you do, you can do really global, right? Because the physical constraint is not there anymore. So we have seen the connectiveness increase in this time, which was amazing.
Amazing. That's a great point. Is there anything that you would do different, Antonio, if you were going to do this over again?
If I would do this over again, if there is anything to do differently, you know, I wish I could do even on a quicker way, because I see how the end stage is, and of course, how much we have improved as an organization. But that's mainly it. But on the other hand, I know that for organizations to change, and we are not at the end yet. So I would like to do it quicker, because I would love to know how it is when we are at the end stage. But the reality is probably we will never reach an end stage. So it will be a constantly evolving organization. So that's just dreaming about something that will not necessarily come. But I was about to say, even though my passion would tell me, okay, let's try to do it even quicker so we get to the next stage even faster. On the other hand, I know that it takes time for certain changes to be digested from an organization. Mm-hmm. So that's something that definitely it's more aspirational than real, that I will do something really different. The only other thing I will do differently, maybe, it is to start slightly earlier to engage with the early career talents. Mm. This is something we already have done. We launched this program. I don't know if you remember in the application about Takeda Digital Accelerators, which basically it's a program for students at the end of their career at the university, where we offer them the chance to join us, be trained on digital artificial intelligence, to then work on a real business case and compete with other students. And the top 6, they get a rotational experience of 1 year with us in different parts of our organization. So that's super cool, because if you think we go to finance, we go to, let's say, traditional type of university, and we say, okay, have you ever thought you could develop your first bot? A robot, a real robot. And people normally say, no, I never thought that was something for me. Okay, come, join us. We will teach you how to do, you will do. And if you are good as we think you are, you can stay with us and kickstart your career with some skills and competencies that will make the difference for sure for the next 5 to 10 years. So if I could do something different, I will start that even before, because of course it takes time. It takes time to get to the university, to be known the way we want to be known, like digital accelerators, like forward-looking, like the culture we are embedding. And of course, if we would have started earlier, we would be on a more advanced step.
Yeah. Yep. And hindsight is 2020. You don't realize how long it takes to make meaningful change, and you're not just changing your culture internally, but to your point, you're also building a reputation that makes people want to come to work for you within the universities, within the communities. So absolutely great point. So Antonio, you've been describing this massive change at your organization, which I'm sure has been challenging and enlightening in many ways. But what's the secret sauce? What's the trick in your recipe that made this click for you guys?
It's our people. It's definitely our people. I don't need a lot of time to think about it, because of course we speak about big changes, and of course there was a lot of direction coming from the overall strategy, but you cannot achieve anything without your people. And on top of everything, the fact that we all have a clear North Star in TBS, which is to deliver an exceptional people experience, That was put us together, and for sure, that's what made us able to reach what we have reached so far.
Fantastic. It's great to know. Thank you. And that leads me to another question, which is, what advice would you have for folks that are on a similar journey? We've got a wide audience here at HFS, and everybody's in a different phase of this, wanting to transform, change their culture, build an organization the way that you've described it. So any tips or words of wisdom for folks that are maybe just starting?
Yeah, the one I would probably share is that, I don't know, maybe it's a bit obvious, but sometimes when you are in big changes, you tend to have more a short-term, very change-related type of approach. Like you are in the weeds and you have to change this, and that. And of course, that creates stress. Human beings are not projected to change, but we live in a world that is changing very fast. And we know that in this world, either you change or you probably won't exist long term, right? Because you need to keep on adapting on the environment that is changing so far. And no one is, let's say, having the power to slow down the changes around us. What we learned is that when you are in this tactical struggle of the pressure of everything you have to change, everything you have to deliver, to raise your head and look long term and see where you are pointing in the long term, that's what makes the difference and really puts things in perspective. And when you are able to make that with your organization, not only by you, but when you feel the stress, when you have the feeling that the organization is feeling the stress of the change, which is normal. If there is my 2 cents, if anyone comes and say, yeah, we changed it and we didn't feel the stress, either they didn't change or they are lying, because change comes with stress, positive stress, and when it's too much can be negative stress. So my takeaway from these last 2 years in this journey was that every time I was feeling that either myself or my organization, my colleagues were feeling too much stress, I was pausing a second, lifting the head, looking long term and say, look, we are doing this for that. Forget about if we are struggling, we will find a solution today, next week, priority, conflicts, whatever. Yeah, we can do. But at the end, we will land there. And the place where we will land, it's a beautiful place. It's a place where we can help our patients, where we can work on the trust and the reputation of our organization. We can sustain our business. So we know where we are going. And as soon as you reconnect on this, then you go back on your daily duties and everything comes much more easily. So that's my takeaways from this big transformation we have done in the last 2 years.
That's great advice. Basically, keep your eye on the prize, right? Look at the big picture, and recognize that stress is going to be part of that change. That's great advice. Well, thank you so much, Antonio. Thank you for spending some time with us today. And again, congratulations on Takeda's winning of the People and Process Change Awards with our HFS OneOffice Awards.
Thank you so much. Thanks for you. And it's been really a pleasure to be with you.
Likewise. Have a good one.
Thanks.